Why are you not having any clothes on?
This is the never-before-seen case of Harold Easter, a shocking example of police negligence and the only time a suspect has ever died inside of the interrogation room. A man who went from stone-cold sober to dying of an overdose, all while in police custody.
Seizure.
On January 3, 2020, police pulled over Harold Easter after they allegedly witnessed him selling drugs after Harold stopped his vehicle. The officers immediately rushed the vehicle, weapons drawn just to see him hiding the evidence in a truly shocking way.
Put your hands up!
Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Do it now!
My man just got out. We had some weed. That's all.
Hands up! Hands up!
Open the door for you.
Door!
Put your hands up right now. Keep them up. Keep your hands up right now. Don't eat it. He's eating. Hands up.
Harold admits to having a little bit of marijuana on him, but obviously doesn't want him to know about the crack cocaine he was also carrying, as instead of giving it up, he puts a rack of it in his mouth and swallows it directly in front of the officer. Obviously, this is extremely unsafe. Ingesting any amount of this drug can be dangerous, but in the amounts that Harold just took, it's life-threatening. Officers should have immediately called for medical attention and taken him to a hospital, but instead they focused on arresting him and bringing him into custody, leaving him to suffer for hours on end.
I got it. All right. Got anything on you? Just come prove me
I ain't
stupid.
got nothing. No, I ain't got nothing.
Leaving all that cash in your pocket.
The officer pats Harold down and finds nothing but a stack of cash on him. However, a search of his vehicle recovers much more.
He was crushing up part of his crack. He didn't get all of it though, but that's what he was doing while I was fighting for his hands. But we probably got an 8-ball down here. This is gonna be part of the crack he was crushing when I was dealing with him. And here's another baggie located in front of the driver's seat.
The officers recover about 3.5 grams of crack cocaine and around 1 gram of marijuana from the car, along with the cash found in his pocket. These aren't big-time numbers, and Harold maintained that he wasn't even selling it in the first place. He was just smoking a little with his friend Harold in.
I ain't had nothing but to smoke a little rock with. That's all. Smoke me a rock. That's all.
Open your mouth, stick your tongue out.
It's gay, man.
Open your mouth, stick your tongue out. Lift your tongue out. Keep your mouth open.
I don't got nothing in my mouth. That's what I tell you.
The officers are both showing perfect conduct, treating each other with respect and staying calm. But remember that the cops know Harold has just swallowed a large amount of crack cocaine, and they seem to be completely ignoring how dangerous this really is. But instead of worrying about that, the cops just shut him in the patrol vehicle and leave him unattended for over 10 minutes before driving him back to the police station. During this drive, Harold starts to become more talkative and excitable. The first sign that the coke is kicking in when he arrives at the station, this has only gotten more apparent comparing how he talks here to his demeanor just a short while earlier during the arrest.
You supposed to I ain't doing it, just let me pass it on. I can't even let's just swing your arms around the fence. Yeah, okay. Sit down. Man, this is crazy. If I sit down, it's gonna hurt. Here. In about 5 minutes, I'll come back and get you. Cause he got stuck, man. He's like, man, I ain't doing that to y'all. I'm not saying you gonna hurt yourself. I can take you yes, let me take a look. Your earrings, tongue ring, whatever you got, you got no tongue ring.
It doesn't take an expert to realize that Harold is already very high. He's talking way more than before, swaying and bouncing around whenever he gets the chance, and has a distinct lack of care for what's going on. The officer should know that something is up with him, but whether he totally missed the signs or just dismissed it as him being a random junkie from the street, he still failed to alert the medical staff of Harold's condition. Instead, he watched him take his hoodie and shirt off, indicating a high body temperature, and left the interrogation room.
Say that young guy, damn, you dream on, cause I ain't had no license. All that bad stuff, you know, is me driving the motherfucking car.
While the interrogation audio isn't the cleanest, Harold's demeanor and tone tell enough of a story. Right now, he's just feeling the early effects of the huge dose he took, but soon, cocaine toxicity will start to kick in. The footage from this interrogation captures all 4 stages of this process, from where he is now to paranoia and distress, ending with seizures and a loss of consciousness, all without an ounce of medical attention.
Kiss me on, man. Keep trying to reach a stand. I go to jail for trying to realize a little piece of weed and raw. I take a 12 days. Yeah, y'all don't have any time, yeah?
Harold is starting to get louder and angrier, likely stemming from the first sign of a cocaine overdose known as delirium. Specifically, Harold seems to be experiencing excited delirium, a state that is consistent with hyperactivity paranoia, rising body temperature, and incoherent screaming and shouting. The anger may also come from the fact that since he was arrested, he's told officers he's needed to drink water and use the bathroom, but hasn't been given access to either. In response to this, he yells and asks them if they're going to let him die. There are horrifying statements that will soon prove to be more significant than he could have ever realized.
You can't name to me. I ain't mama. But I need it. I got a hot name. You see this in my mama. And my pieces got stuck in me. It's hot in you. I'm gonna say that God, but he's started back on and go and never get along. Why do you not have any clothes on? Man, that's on crack. And he said, I'm gonna put my shit back on. I'm gonna put his back on. I'm gonna his back on. I'm gonna come and get it. Let me get some more, man. That's all I'm saying. I ain't trying to listen to you. You know, but you have to pee or you want to have some water. I'm gonna take a little sip of water.
Finally, an officer returns and asks if he needs water. 4 minutes later, he brings some in, but his actions afterwards are extremely telling.
Anything is telling that. Let me get the water. I'm gonna say that. I know we don't talk about it's real shit. It's real shit. But it's not really real. It ain't really disrespect me. Why are you because, man, I really guns in the face. I'm just trying to leave my ass. Y'all know if you know me trying, you know I ain't got no gun or gun in my ass. I don't ride with no gun.
After giving him the water, the officer just asks why he's yelling so much before immediately backing out of the room while Harold is still talking. It's almost as though the officer feels scared or threatened by Harold, amplified by the fact that he refuses to turn his back to him at any point. The cop wants to keep him in his vision so he can feel safe. It's now apparent what the cops are actually doing. It seems as though they think the dosage that Harold took is safe and are just waiting for it to wear off before they begin questioning and processing him. Given that the arresting officer saw the size of the rock that Harold swallowed, it should have been obvious that it wasn't a safe dosage. They only realized when it was already too late. Harold is starting to shake in what are known as pre-convulsive moments. He knows something is wrong, but due to how intoxicated he is, he won't be able to understand what's happening or that he desperately needs help. This is the first stage of cocaine intoxication, and his blood pressure will be rising dramatically. His thoughts will become clouded, and he may start to experience hypothermia, along with the obvious twitching and convulsive motions that are visible. Entering this stage confirms that the substance has essentially poisoned his bloodstream, and even if medics were called now, there is very little they'd be able to do to stop what's to come. Harold has just had a seizure, The second stage of cocaine toxicity, his entire body began heavily convulsing. He lost control of his muscles, and his body likely started sending less oxygen to his brain and other vital organs. His heart is probably even starting to beat irregularly and skip beats. His body is starting to completely shut down. Harold then spends 2 minutes lying motionless on the table before falling to the ground, having multiple more seizures, each more aggressive than the last. Harold spent almost 10 minutes in this stage of stage 3 cocaine toxicity before an officer finally checked on him, vomiting, hyperventilating, and convulsing the entire time. Harold Easter was rushed to the hospital where he died 3 days later, leaving behind his wife and children. Following the incident, an investigation was opened against the 5 cops involved in the arrest, who subsequently resigned from the force. No legal action was taken against any of them. However, changes were made to the company's policy following Harold's death. Officers are now required to constantly monitor any suspect in their custody instead of just every 15 minutes. And officers must immediately call a medic if they believe a suspect has swallowed any illegal substance. The Easter family also received a cash settlement in their wrongful death suit and has announced that they are at peace with moving on. Stampede showed exactly how not to handle a situation like this.